Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video we've got another trade tree video. In today's video we're looking at a trade that happened a whole bunch of years back, 8 years ago almost, between the Anaheim Ducks and New Jersey Devils that saw a massive swap that's still helping them to some extent to this day. We'll get to both these updates from our past couple of days coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now before we begin this video, do not forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this without all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget the subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. And don't forget to stay tuned for more videos coming out in the very near future. So in today's video, we have another trade tree video. We've done a number of these over the past couple of weeks. We're going to do another one here today. It's a trade that happened on November 30th, 2017 between the Anaheim Ducks and the New Jersey Devils. The Ducks, just a couple of months after trading Shea Theodore in the expansion draft to protect Sami Vatanen, would wind up trading him in a pretty big deal that got them Adam Henrique, as he spent a couple of long seasons with the Anaheim Ducks. The full trade was as follows. The Ducks and the Devils looked upon a trade. The Devils add to their defensive core by adding Sami Vatanen, also got a 2019 third round pick from the Anaheim Ducks, and in exchange the Anaheim Ducks acquired top 6 center Adam Henrique, as well as prospect Joseph Blandisi, and a third round pick in the 2018 draft. So we'll start with the Anaheim Ducks side. We'll start with that third round pick in 2018. Now, the 2018 third round pick of the New Jersey Devils that traded to Anaheim wound up being 79th overall. And with that selection, the Anaheim Ducks would take left wing / center prospect Blake McLaughlin. Now, McLaughlin had a couple of really good seasons leading up into the draft. He looked like he could have eventually been like a bomb 6 forward. He wound up having 4 seasons after he was drafted in the NCAA, putting up 20 points and 24 points and 28 points and 33 points. And the 21-22 season coming out of the NCAA signed to ELC. It looked like he was going to be a solid prospect there for the Anaheim Ducks, but he never really cracked the NHL roster. His first full season of pro level action, playing 43 ECHL level games, only 24 AHL games. His next season, he played 21 ECHL games and 29 AHL games. 2 years ago, he wound up only playing in 29 ECHL games, and then his ELC ran out. So last year, he wasn't under contract with the Anaheim Ducks. So that was a broken branch of the trade tree because McLaughlin never really panned out. He wasn't traded. He just walked away as a UFA. So very interesting note there is McLaughlin was never re-signed by the Anaheim Ducks and he walked away. So that branch of the trade tree is done. Now get ready because this is going to be a long part of the trade branch. The next piece we're going to look at here is Joseph Blandisi. Now at the time of this trade, Blandisi was a draft pick about 5 years prior. He had some pretty dang good seasons over in the OHL. He had a few good seasons with the Devils and their AHL affiliates leading up to this trade, so he was traded to the Anaheim Ducks in the middle of the season. He wound up finishing that season with 5 goals and 15 points in 27 AHL games, also got to no points in 3 NHL games. The following season, he had no points in 3 NHL games, also had 23 points in 27 AHL games, but instead of keeping on with his development, the Ducks struck up a deal with the Pittsburgh Penguins as they would wind up trading Blandisi. The trade was as follows. It was a 1-for-1 deal. Blandisi went to the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Anaheim Ducks got Derek Grant in return. So very interesting note there, Grant had spent prior time in Anaheim a couple of years prior, so he went back to Anaheim, wound up putting up 2 goals and 9 points in 31 NHL games with them. The following season, he put up 14 goals, 20 points, in 49 games with the Ducks, which wasn't actually overly bad. He was more of like a 4th-line forward, spare guy, sort of a utility type player. But with his contract coming to an end in the 1920 season, the Ducks nowhere near a playoff spot, they would hook up a deal with the Philadelphia Flyers at the trade deadline to trade Derek Grant. And the deal was as follows. Right before the 2020 trade deadline, just a couple of weeks before COVID, the Anaheim Ducks would strike up a deal with Philadelphia. The Ducks would deal Derek Grant to the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for Kyle Crisculio and a 2020 4th round pick. Now Crisculio, a center prospect, was more of an AHL level guy who could have been a call-up option. He, at the point in time in this trade, had 24 points in 40 AHL games but didn't play at all at the NHL level, hadn't even gone to a game of NHL action. After this trade, played in 7 games with the Anaheim Ducks AHL affiliates, putting up no points. His contract will expire at the end of that 2020 season and he would walk as a UFA. So even though Chris Coolio was a decent depth guy, AHL guy call-up option, he wound up leaving just after a few weeks of playing in the Anaheim Ducks organization. So very interesting note there, but that branch of the trade tree ends as Chris Coolio wound up leaving as UFA. But for the other piece of this trade tree, it was a 4th round pick in the 2020 draft. Now the 4th round pick in 2020 was 104th overall, and in the 2020 draft, with that 4th round pick, the Ducks would keep it, and they selected Timo Nickel. Now Nickel was a decent prospect. He had played over in the SHL, played over in Allsvenskan. There were a couple of other places he played overseas as a prospect for the Anaheim Ducks, but it never really started to amount to go anywhere. So 3 years after this sort of a pickup here from the Anaheim Ducks, the Ducks would wind up making another trade that extended this branch of the trade tree. It was another 1-for-1 swap with the Pittsburgh Penguins, as they traded Timo Nickel signing rights to the Pittsburgh Penguins for Jude Caulfield. Now Caulfield signed a 2-year deal right after being acquired by Anaheim with the AAV of $837,000, playing the AHL affiliate for the Ducks for the past couple of seasons. Put up 26 points in 61 games 2 years ago. Last year, 25 points in 67 games. Looked like a decent prospect. He's currently an unsigned RFA, so I'm not sure if he'll stay in the NHL, if he'll go overseas. Not sure how that'll go, but at this current point in time, his signing rates are still with the Anaheim Ducks. So that's a long trade branch, but it does wind up with the Ducks still having Jude Caulfield at this point in time. And the last trade tree portion of this trade tree for the Anaheim Ducks is Adam Henrique. Now Henrique was a center/left winger. He was a draft pick of the New Jersey Devils, spent his entire career up to this point with the Devils, was a really solid player in New Jersey, helped them get to the 2012 Stanley Cup Finals, so he was a really good piece for them. The Devils were not going very far, and they wanted to try and change up the roster. They needed a blue liner in Vatanen, so they moved Henrique. So after the trade, he wound up having 20 goals and 36 points in 57 games in Anaheim. The following season had 18 goals, but 42 points in 82 games in Anaheim. Then he had a point more, 43 points in only 71 games in 1920 with Anaheim. Then during the COVID postponed season, he only played in 45 games, putting up 12 goals and 21 points. Then had one of his best seasons in Anaheim, putting up 42 points, including 19 goals in 58 NHL games in the shortened season. Then had 38 points in 62 games in the 22-23 season, and 42 points in 60 games in the 23-24 season. But with his contract coming to an end, and the Ducks at this point still ways away from a playoff spot, they would wind up striking up a deal with the Edmonton Oilers in a massive blockbuster deal. And the trade was as follows. The Edmonton Oilers acquired Adam Henrique along with Sam Carrick in a 2024 7th round pick from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for a 2024 1st round pick and a 2025 5th round pick. So it was only 2 pieces, but there was a very good 1st round pick they got in this trade for Adam Henrique, which really did help them a couple of years ago in the draft. So they had an extra 2024 1st round pick, and they would wind up trading that 1st pick. It was a pick swap with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Just before Toronto Maple Leafs picked 23rd overall, they would strike up the deal with the Anaheim Ducks, as the Ducks moved the 34th overall pick, which was the draft pick that the Edmonton Oilers gave the Anaheim Ducks, as well as the 58th overall pick to the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for a 23rd overall pick. And with the 23rd overall pick, the Ducks took young prospect defenseman Stian Solberg. Now Solberg's played over the past couple of seasons. I think it's either in juniors or overseas, I'm not exactly sure. He's been a really solid prospect, has the potential to be a solid top 4 left shot defenseman in a couple of years' time in Anaheim. At this current point in time, I think he's still going to be playing either in the AHL or overseas. I don't think he's going to be an NHL defenseman this upcoming season, but in the next couple of seasons, I think Solberg will be a really solid pickup there for the Ducks. So that was one of the pieces that they got and still have from the Adam Henrique deal. And the other pick was a 2025 5th round pick. It wound up being that way. It was conditional at the time, but they wound up getting the 2025 5th round pick of the Edmonton Oilers, and it was used just a couple of months ago in the 2025 draft. And they took left wing forward prospect Emil Gouillet. Gouillet played in the QMJHL last year, putting up 30 points in 59 games. He just was drafted, so there's not really much to go on here, but the Ducks do still have a couple of draft picks in Solberg and Gouillet in exchange for the Adam Henrique part of this deal. So the Ducks, while they didn't do overly great, still have a handful of pieces left from this Henrique for Vatanen swap that still leaves them with Judd Caulfield as well as Gouillet and Solberg. So very interesting note there. When you go over to the Devils side, they had 2 things in this trade tree. That was a 2019 3rd round pick and Sami Vatanen. So we'll start with the 3rd round pick first. It wound up being 70th overall in the 2019 draft, which is what it wound up being, and they used that pick to select Daniil Misul. Now at the time, Misul was a really solid prospect playing over in the KHL. He spent a whole bunch of seasons over in the KHL up until the 2023-2024 season, so just a couple of years ago when he signed an ELC Blandisi with the New Jersey Devils. He wound up playing in his first full pro season, putting up 4 goals and 14 points in 44 games over in the AHL for New Jersey. Then he wound up putting up 8 assists in 47 games in the AHL with the Devils again. Also got into his first career NHL action game. By the trade deadline, the Devils weren't really liking where career trajectory was going, so to make a 1-for-1 swap with the Boston Bruins at the 2024 trade deadline. And the trade was as follows. The Boston Bruins traded Mark McLaughlin to New Jersey Devils in exchange for Daniil Missoul. Now, at the time, McLaughlin was a really solid prospect in the Boston Bruins system. He had some NHL experience, was starting to turn into a really consistent and solid AHL guy, but also a call-up option. After this trade, this past trade deadline, he wound up having 6 assists in 16 games over in Utica, and also had assists in 2 games at the NHL level, and all means he looks like a really solid prospect. Like, I'm not sure if he'll make the NHL roster out of training camp this year, but he'll at least be on the team's roster after signing a new extension in New Jersey. So very interesting note there, but that 2019 third round pick has allowed the New Jersey Devils to get a solid call-up option in McLaughlin, which is what they have right now. And the last piece of this deal was Sami Vatanen. Now, after this trade, Vatanen wound up being a really solid defenseman in the New Jersey organization. After the trade, he had 28 points in 58 games with the New Jersey Devils. Then he had 4 goals and 17 points in 50 games in the 18-19 season, and 5 goals and 23 points in 47 games in the 19-20 season. But with his contract coming to an end and the New Jersey Devils in a really tough spot when it comes to making the playoffs, they wound up putting up on a trade with the Carolina Hurricanes to deal Sami Vatanen. And the trade was as follows. Sami Vatanen was dealt to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for Frederick Claesson, Yanni Kuokkanen, and a conditional 2020 third-round pick. Now, we'll start here with Kuokkanen. Kuokkanen at the time of this trade was a really solid prospect in the Carolina Hurricanes organization, had 42 points in 52 AHL games, so it was really a solid pickup here for the Devils. Wound up having 6 points in 4 games in the AHL after the trade, also got into 1 NHL game with the Devils. The following season, he wound up playing in 50 NHL games with New Jersey, putting up 25 points. But then after one of his better seasons at the NHL level, putting up 17 goals in 57 games in the 21-22 season, the Devils would buy out the final season of Yanni Kuokkanen and make him a UFA. So that branch ends as the Devils wound up walking away from Kuokkanen. So that was very interesting there, as they lost one of their top pieces they got in the Vatanen deal. The second piece that they got in this deal is defenseman Frederick Claesson. Now, Claesson, a couple of years back, was a really solid prospect defenseman in the Ottawa Senators organization. He had spent a couple of seasons in a couple of other teams' organizations. That year, before he got dealt, had 19 points in 47 AHL games for the Charlotte Checkers. After the deal, he wound up playing at the NHL level with New Jersey, putting up a goal and 2 points in 5 games. But after the COVID-shortened season, he wound up leaving as a UFA, and the Devils walked away from him. So very interesting note there. But 2 of the 3 pieces they got in this trade for Sami Vatanen left as UFAs and a buyout. So very interesting note there. And then they had the 2020 third-round pick. Now, the third-round pick wound up turning into a third-round pick instead of a fourth-round pick. It was 84th overall that they got from the Carolina Hurricanes in the 2020 draft. And this player is still on the New Jersey Devils roster. They, with the 84th overall pick in the 2020 draft, selected goaltending prospect Nico Daws. Now, Daws has had an up-and-down career so far with the New Jersey Devils. He had a couple of really good seasons. Back in the 21-22 season with the New Jersey Devils, while putting up 25 games of NHL action, putting up a 3.11 GAA and an 893 save percentage, which wasn't overly great numbers. The 22-23 season, he spent the entirety at the AHL level. The following season, the 23-24 season, the Devils were still going through some hiccups when it comes to their current goaltending situation. So Dallas played in 21 games, putting up a 3.15 GAA, 894 save percentage, not much better than it was the year prior. But in the 24-25 season, he really found a home at the AHL level, did great stuff there at the AHL level. The Devils had Markstrom and Allen, so I didn't really need to call upon Dawes at the NHL level too much. He did get into 6 games due to injuries. He put up a 1.6 GAA, 939 save percentage, and looks at this point in time like he could still be at least tandem, if not starter of the future for the New Jersey Devils. Now, he is waivers eligible, so we shall see if they place him on waivers or not, but still, very interesting note there. Dawes has turned to a really solid goaltender for the New Jersey Devils. So very interesting note there, but the Devils have a really solid goalie prospect here in Dawes, who's actually had some pretty good seasons over with the New Jersey Devils, both at the NHL and AHL level. So very interesting note there. So basically, when it comes down to it, the full trade was Sami Vatanen and a 2019 third-round pick for a 2018 third-round pick, Joe Blandisi, and Adam Henrique. And at this current point in time, the Ducks have 3 pieces on this current team because of that deal. That is Judd Caulfield, that is Goulet, and that is Solberg. All 3 are really solid young prospects. Well, the Devils currently have Mark McLaughlin and Nico Dawes because of this deal. So basically, it was a 3-piece for 2-piece deal. Anaheim, New Jersey. At this current point in time, the Ducks have 3 pieces, the Devils have 2. So very interesting note there. Like, I think at this current point in time, probably the Devils do win this deal because, well, it hasn't really helped either one of those teams go very far in the playoffs. I do think that the Devils really got some really good pieces. The Ducks also got some really good pieces though, so I could see this be one of our win-win deals that we look upon a couple of years ago. So very interesting note there. Like, I think it's more of a win-win deal, maybe a little bit more on the Devils side, but I could see the Ducks long-term still wind up winning this deal. So we're gonna have to wait and see on that. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who do you think won this deal? Was it the Devils? Was it the Ducks? Are you surprised at how long this trade tree got? And I'd love to hear your thoughts going forward on how you think this deal broke down. Definitely let your thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. That's all I'm going to talk for today. Remember to like this video and for listeners to subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this with all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to stay tuned for more videos coming in the very near future. I also have a blog to my news, rumors, analysis. So for that, so check that out. I'll link that in the description below. Can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.